Hi there, it's Keren Baker and I'm delighted to be showing you this new product from Grafix. Well, it's a new product. It's using existing surfaces that we all know and love from Grafix, but in a brand new way. And I've been delighted to be sent one kindly by Grafix, and I chose this one, which is the 6x9 or the 15.2 by 22.8 centimetre pack. And so what you get is you get 2 pages of each type. So let me open it up and we'll show you. I have to excuse the light glare, but I wanted to show you how it comes out of the packet. So these are the discs, and here we have our lovely potential of a journal. So these discs are the way that things are packaged together, and when you slot these discs in, what it means is that you end up with them all going together and it can open up flat. It's probably easy to do these bit by bit, but they just slot on like that, and then you would slot on the next page and the next page. So I'm not going to slot them all together right now. I'm just going to show you the individual elements of them. So to start off with, the first 2 pages are a clear Duralar. Now, if you've never used these before, they are exactly the same product as you would get in their larger packs. So this is the clear, and I've also got the matte here, but I think this is a great example of like a taster, because sometimes if you're starting out and you're not sure which surfaces you're going to enjoy using, and you're not sure about how they work and how they would fit in with your style, something like this Mixed Media Journal is going to be absolutely brilliant, because it gives you the chance to try out lots of their different products. So the first 2 are the clear Duralar, and then the second 2, which I've got a big soft spot for, which I love using a lot, is the matte Duralar. So there's 2 of those. Now the next one is 2 of the wet media Duralar, so 2 of those. And then we've got 2 of the opaque, it says opaque whites, actually these are the opaque blacks. So 2 of the opaque blacks together, and then 2 of the opaque white. These are called the Jura Bright. So there's the opaque white, Jura Bright in black, and the opaque white, Jura Bright in white. And then you've got a lovely sturdy surface at the back, which is just some natural chipboard, which you can of course use as part of your mixed media journal. And the great thing is that they can be easily removed, the pages. You're not stuck with the order that they've come in. You're not stuck if you want to take out some types. Excuse me, I've just got a bit of dust on there, apologies. If you want to add in more of a particular type, because you will be able to get different types of surfaces to swap in and out. So this is the bare bones of the Mixed Media Journal, and I can't wait to get going and show you how I have created my own Mixed Media Journal, having an experiment with all these lovely surfaces from Grafix. So let's get started. So here is my, well, it's not entirely finished, but I've treated each of the different types of pages from the Mixed Media Journal, and I put it together with the rings in. Now they do actually give you a spare ring, which for somebody like me is super useful because I'm rubbish at losing things. So what I thought I'd do is just give you a quick walkthrough using the different pages and just show you how I've treated my journal. Obviously when you have yours, you're going to do all sorts of brilliant things with it. I decided, instead of putting the chipboard pages, which you could use as the front and the back, I love playing around with transparency and opaqueness, so I actually wanted my first sheet to be the clear Duralar. Now if you have, it's going to be a nightmare. I'm sorry about this, there is going to be a bit of a glare, but with these kind of reflective surfaces there's not a lot you can do about it. So if you have a little look here, you can see it's actually quite a substantial thickness, which means that you can throw tons at it. Now if you have a look at this first page, there are lots of different products and different techniques you can use, particularly when you have a clear product like the Duralar, the clear Duralar. So I started off by using an ordinary stencil. I haven't actually got it here, but just an ordinary stencil like this. And I put some of the Grunge paste through. I mean, you can use any embossing paste. And then I added, let it dry, and then I added some glitter onto the top of it to make the wording sort of bring it forth. And then I actually painted. I use a lot of these paints, the Paper Artsy ones. They're chalk paint, they dry super quick and they're beautiful to work with. So I chose my colour palette, I painted on, and then I started doodling. Now if you have a little look, there's actually quite a bit of thickness coming out from the page. But before I did that, sorry, I should have said this first. What I did was I used another stencil and I put paint through. So the very first layer was the paint. And then I put the embossing paste, the Grunge paste. And then what I did was I stamped on the top. Now, using these kind of slippery surfaces, my best friend that I like to use a lot is the Stazon range. So I put Stazon. Now, if you are wanting to keep the intricacies of the stamped parts, you can see here, I stamped on the top. So all I did was I turned over the page and I painted on the reverse. Now, ideally, when you're going to be doing journals like this, you're going to have to be mindful, if they are clear like this, is what the reverse looks like. Now, I could have put something over this to sort of bring it out and really make it pop, but I wanted you to be able to see through onto the next layer. So all of these decisions are entirely up to you, and what you'll find is, because you can take the pages in and out, you might find that you actually want to put a different type of page underneath or change the order. So that is the very sort of first bit, and you can see then I actually overstamped another image. It's beautiful. I should get some paper here, shouldn't I, so you can see. Okay, if I pop that in, you can see it a little better. Okay, so beautiful image. It's a Limparella image, a Limparella stamp for Paper Artsy, and you can see here how I've done this first page. So that's the first one, very easy. I mean, you can just mess around and play. It really is a beautiful surface. I just adore this. And then, as I said before, one of my favourites is the matte Duralar. Now, because I kind of use this, not so much as a journal, although I will be writing about thoughts and feelings, I didn't want to clutter that up so that you could see and you could imagine your own writing on here. What I thought I'd do is create like a little bit of a workbook to remind me, and a bit of a source, so that when I was going to use some of these graphic surfaces, I could think, okay, let me have a little look at whatever it is, whether it's the wet media, and see what I've actually done to give me some inspiration, because my memory is so rubbish. I'm sure yours will be much better than mine, but the idea is this is going to be like a little reference book. So all I did was I painted some cardstock, folded it over and made my own tabs. Obviously, once you're used to these and you'll be able to tell by the feel and the look of them, you will know which product is which. But if you're just starting out and you're not sure what's what, this is actually really helpful. So I just put all these little tabs and put exactly what the graphics product was, which means that when I come to it or somebody else comes to it, it's really easy to tell what I've done. So this second page, I'm using the matte Duralar again. I've stamped again with Stazon. You could use Archival. Archival on this surface doesn't tend to give quite as a crisp look, which is what I wanted for this super detailed stamp. It's a brilliant ink, I would use it on other surfaces in preference to Stazon, but for this particular type of stamp and this particular surface, my choice, my go-to tends to be Stazon. Now the beauty of Stazon is obviously it stays on, as it says, but because of its makeup, if you want to use something like an alcohol marker, you cannot use it on top of the Stazon because they'll react. But the beauty of the matte Duralar is because of its opaqueness, I can actually see the colour from underneath. So what I tend to do is when I'm using my alcohol markers, I haven't got any here to show you, I should have brought them with me, I'm actually colouring from the reverse so that you can see the colour coming through. It gives a beautiful, soft, filtered look to it. Absolutely lovely. And if I hold this up, you might be able to see very well. But you can see here, I've actually got just an ordinary white gel pen. I tend to use a lot of these jelly roll pens, and the jelly roll pens will dry on the Duralar, which I didn't think that they would, but they do. Because you can't really see very well, I've just put a little bit of a bit of gel print that I've got left over, so you've got a little bit of an edge and you can actually see the bit of doodling there. If you're a doodler, you're going to love this sort of a book. So that's the matte Duralar, very simple. Obviously I haven't done these surfaces complete justice. What I've just done is some basic stuff that might give you an idea of how you could use the surfaces too. So on to the next page, and again, if you've never used these discs, they come in and out really, really easily. You can see there, and you would just push them back. And the easiest way to do it is one page at a time when you're compiling a journal. But as you can see, you can work flat in it. So if you want to work in your journal while it's all bound together, you can do, or you can just take it out if you're not sure how messy it's going to be. So again, I've got another page of the clear Duralar. I'm not quite sure why I labelled it twice, but I did. So this is the front cover, same product, but I've done something very similar. But this is another thing that I've done. If I try, again, I love the being able to see through to the next layer. But if I try and just bring a piece of paper through for you, you might be able to see it a little bit easier. So I have used paint directly onto this surface. Now, you can see here what I've done is I've actually scratched back. So I just used a little wooden implement. I just made darts, scratch back, but sort of to give the whole image a little bit more presence. I just thought I would just do something like that. So there's all sorts of fun you could have, revealing parts of images, taking them off. And again, I've just put a little bit more of the grunge paste on the bottom, which you could paint quite easily. You know, you could knock it off, you could strike through it. Once it's dry, they're pretty hard, but while it was sort of half wet, you could actually mess around with it, texture it, all sorts of things you can do with it. So you can see these are really substantial surfaces that you can just play around. And again, you know, I could start by doing something on the back here. I've left it as it was. Now you can see through, I haven't covered this one yet. This is not a complete journal. This is just on the way. Now we're on to wet media Duralar. You can see down here. Now this is an amazing, amazing substance. What you cannot normally do, if any of you have ever tried to paint on a slippy surface like this, you are not going to get products to dry on there. They tend to bead. They don't dry, or they do odd things, but this is absolutely magical. This here is just simple watercolor. And when I first tried it, I just did not believe that it was going to look so good. Again, you could scratch through it. You can do as I've done here, just stamped over it. Again, I've used Stazon. I've just put watercolor to write on these surfaces. I like using things like, you know, Posca Pens. So those will write and they will stay where you've put them. So you can start to see there is so much that you can do. And again, you know, you could stick something white on the reverse if you wanted to create something that was had real impact, or you could leave it as it was. You can obviously stamp on the front and on the back. You could paint on the back, so you could have the paints combining together in a really interesting way. So that just gives you an idea of the sorts of things. And it's not just for watercolor, but that's what I tried with it. So that's the wet media page. Now we're on to two of those, because there are two of each of them. Now we've got the opaque white Dura-Bright. So I've put a bit of alcohol ink on here. So I've just dabbed it on different colours, and then I added a little bit of glue and a little bit of sort of gold foil. I stamped over it before I put the gold foil on. Again, stamped with Stazon. It's going to dry perfectly. I've actually taken a little bit of it off with some of the Stazon cleaner. So if you want to remove things from your surfaces, you can actually knock it all back. So for instance, with this page here, this one here, I actually stamped something down there, but didn't like it. So I got my Stazon cleaner and it just cleans off really, really perfectly. So if you make mistakes on these, do not worry, you can remove them. So again, I removed some of the colour there. I've added gel pen. Again, you can see that there's a lot that you can do with it. These are the beginning. I want to do more to it, but it just gives you an idea of where I was going with this journal. Onto the opaque black. And I've stamped this beautiful woman's face. Again, I've used Stazon, but the pigment stays on, so the white stays on. So you can see here, dries absolutely perfectly. And for colouring and doodling, it's absolutely brilliant. For colouring on the dark surfaces, I've just been using these, the Stabilo, I don't know how you say it, these metallic pens. And also I've used these are a lot softer, the Permapaque ones. They don't give quite as much depth of colour, but they still do work on this Dura-Bright, or the opaque black surface. You can see here I've doodled with gel pen, and also these pens. You know, you can really go to town and have fun exploring these. Just, you know, they are such versatile surfaces. You could cut into them if you wanted. I think what would be really good fun would be perhaps to take this off and actually have a cutout surface. So when I flick through, you'll be able to see the image underneath. So that gives you an idea with those ones. And then onto the chipboard at the back. This is really substantial chipboard, and there is a ton of stuff that you can throw at it and it's not going to warp. So this, I did actually make a quick video that I might put a speeded up video into here just to show you what I did, but this is just using quite a lot of layers of paint with water, and then I've added a stamped image. I stamped it in completely because I knew that I was going to cover it up. And then I've added some more stenciled paint, some more grunge paste. So you can see how you can start to really, really build layers. One of the other things that I was going to do was I was actually going to sew on here. I didn't actually get around to doing that in the end because I didn't feel that any of the images were going to work perfectly. But you could sew onto these products. You could sew a little pocket, you could put all sorts of inserts in there. You know, you can fold these over because they will fold and crease. They are really, really lovely surfaces. So if any of you are looking for a new mixed media journal and one that is going to hold up to all the sorts of products that you might want to throw at it, whether it's paint, embossing powder, that would also work really, really well with it. Duralar is one of the only surfaces that looks like vellum, but it is not vellum, that you actually can heat emboss with an embossing ink and your embossing powder and heat to set, and it is not going to warp hardly any at all. There might be a tiny bit, but if you just put it back under, you know, something with a bit of weight, you'll find that this is an amazing surface for doing heat embossing with. So whatever sort of products you want to use, whatever sort of art you do, you're going to find this Grafix Mixed Media Journal is really, really super useful. There are two sizes. One of them is a squarer size. I can't remember the exact dimensions. But there is something for everybody, and I really, really recommend this. I can't wait to finish my journal. I've had so much fun putting it together, and I hope it gives you an idea of whether you think this would be a useful product for you and what sort of art you might make in it. Thanks for being with me. Nice to spend this time sharing this super mixed media journal. See you again. Bye.